as only as an adverb. Diagram it under the verb. Every time you get one, put it under the verb. Now we're saying that sometimes it can be used either as a noun or as an adjective. Now he gives an examples. Look at 376. And have your workbook, page 52, available as well. Prepositional phrases are frequently treated as attributive adjectives being placed after the article. So, after the article. Meaning then that the article is going to come before the preposition, not within the prepositional phrase, but before the preposition. En ekini ti poli mathite, or the disciples, the in that city disciples. And that's a free translation. The in that city disciples, or the disciples who are in the city. Notice in here we have mathite, the disciples, and then the in the city. Now I've put the line backward here to indicate that the E goes with the whole clause. We've done that before with OT, we've done it with ina. The backward line indicates that this is going with the whole clause and not just with the word above, as this one does. E mathite, the disciples. But it's the in the city disciples. So we put it backward. But this is an adjective use of the prepositional phrase and modifies mathite. The translation, instead of saying the in the city disciples, we'll say the disciples who are in the city. And this is exactly what we've done with other phrases before. The who is because we're talking about disciples, and the are is are instead of was or were, because the subject is, or the main verb is in the present tense. So the other illustration as a noun. I'm sorry. This number 19. This is the work in your exercises. Look at number 19. Within the ina clause, you have another example of that. Now, as a noun, this is like if you had e agathi, the good men. Well, this is the in the city men. So we put the e on the line, the article, then put the men there in parentheses, and then put the en poli underneath. So this is a noun use. We did the same thing with we would have agathi here if we had it as an adjective. So, the in the city men, or the men who are in the city. You could even say the men in the city, and then go on with the sentence. All right. From now on, then, we need to check when we get a prepositional phrase to see whether it's adverbial or adjective. That is, does it have the article or not? Then in paragraph 378, the noun in the genitive case can be used in the same way. That is, the good men, e agathi, or you could say e tu e su, the of Jesus men, or the ones who belong to Jesus. That would be used 378, and that would be diagrammed similarly. It would be the men, and then the Isu, and two. The men of Jesus, say. The men of Jesus, or the men who belong to Jesus, kind of thing. Paragraph 379 points out that we can expect the same thing with other words, such as O to Zebedeu, the son of Zebedee, or the of Jesus Zebedee, or the of Zebedee man, and that would be the son of Zebedee. So we have genitive of relationship in there. Then we have in 382 the accusative of extent of time and space. Now, this poses a problem for, if you look at the examples, he says, I went with him 1 furlong. How are you going to diagram, I went with him 1 furlong? Went can't have an object, and yet the word in is an accusative. The next example, imena, I remained 1 day. Now, obviously, imena is intransitive. I remained. You can't remain anything. You remain for something, but it's intransitive. So you make a decision. In fact, that's what diagramming is. you decide, well, I think we'll handle it this way, and it's a very personal thing. So I've decided that the way we're going to handle that is we're going to put the meta on the line. So in our on our workbook, I've shown it that way. I remained day. Now, you can't remain a day, but this is an accusative of extent of time, so we'll simply put it up there. I remain one day. See? Imera mian. So we'll just handle it that way. We'll put it as like an object, but then we'll know that it's the extent of time because it's following an intransitive verb. Now that brings me to, well, let's do one more thing on the workbook, and that is os with numerals. He doesn't have any paragraph on that, but he does have in the vocabulary, he says os as, and then with numerals about. And so we need some way to diagram about. So we're in the workbook, I have it this way. Jesus remained in the village about 5 or 6 days. This is number 7 in Machen. Jesus remained in the village. That's normal, what we have done. And then days. He remained days. Now, how many days? About, and remember we said when os is used as to mean about, it's being used as a preposition. We call it adverbial preposition. Some people call it improper preposition or prepositional adverb, whatever. It's acting as a preposition. And about 5 or 6, there's a use of or as well. 5 or 6 days. So he remained in the village about 5 or 6. He remained days about 5 or 6. So that's why we'll diagram it. I used to have a teacher who said, Dr. Clarence Mason, who would always say, well, if someone questioned something he had done, he'd say, I'll tell you what, you do it this way now, and then after you get out of here, you can do it the right way. Well, do it that way if you want. But let's all do it the same way at this point. Now, we've added some uses of the cases, and I want to bring that page 5a up to date, as I indicated to you. And we have the nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative. My page is large. So we want to add some things here. Now, so far you have in the nominative, or you should have, subject and subject complement, or predicate adjective, predicate nominative, whatever you call it. Subject complement is probably the best term. Subject, subject complement. And then in the genitive, you already had possessive and object of a preposition, object of special verbs. And this time we've added genitive of relationship, paragraph 379. Genitive of relationship. So that's the one we're adding. Your book has another number here. That's all we need for this illustration. The dative, you had indirect object, object of a preposition, dative of means. We have no new one here. And then in the accusative, you had direct object and object of a preposition. Subject of the infinitive we added in paragraph 306. Subject of the infinitive. And now we're adding the accusative of extent of time and space. In other words, it's going to tell either how far or how long, extent of space or time. So you want to add that one there. So you now have 4 in the accusative, and we added 1 more in the genitive. Okay? Good. That brings that up to date. The 1 John, chapter 1, verses 7 and 8 is where we are today. And this is on page 814 of your New Testament. He's going to say something about walking in the light in verse 7. Again, this is where the verse begins, on. If we walk in the light. So we'll start there. If we are walking in the light, as. Now here's os as an adverb. Interesting that John should keep right up with Machen here. As, and this is an adverbial conjunction, introducing a clause which really modifies the verb. How are we going to walk? And any word, phrase, or clause that answers the question how is an adverb. So, if we walk in the light, as he is in the light. So, now, remember aftos, page 49 of Machen, in the C note there, said that the aftos is almost never used as a subject. Well, we just threw one in here just to show you that it can be used that way, but you could, in other words, make this as he himself is in the light. So it can be either he is in the light or he himself is in the light. Have both. Now, if this is true, remember this is an on with a subjunctive, so this is what we call a third-class condition, and he's just saying if in the future we should walk in the light. He's not saying we do. He's not assuming anything. He's just saying if this happens, then this will happen. Protasis, apodosis. Then, if this happens, then we will have fellowship with one another. There's allelon. Again, right on target with Machen. With one another. We have fellowship with one another if we're walking in the light. And the reason we don't have fellowship with one another, the reason we have problems with each other is because somebody's not walking in the light. Maybe all of us. That happens. And more than that, this is the here and now, and the blood of Jesus, his Son, a positive, is continually cleansing us from every sin, or from all sin. Cleansing us from all sin. We have the use of pas again, right there. So, we begin by saying, if we do this, then these two things will happen. We'll have fellowship with one another, and we'll be right with God, see? Being cleansed from every sin. Through the blood of his Son, Jesus. No other way does cleansing come. Good verse. Convicting verse. What a good verse. And then verse 8. I can hear someone say, when John says, cleanse from all sin, someone say, well, who? Not me. I don't have any sin. But John said, wait a minute. If we say that we have not sinned, or do not have sin, notice the uk is here. He's not saying that we have no sin. But if we say that we have not sinned, we do not have sin. He's negating the have. You have sin, he's saying, in other words. If we say that we do not have sin, then what happens? We deceive ourselves. Right? You're kidding yourself. You're deceiving yourself. And the truth is not in us. Anyone who says, I don't have any sin, then you're wrong. Sorry about that. John says, you're deceiving yourself. Don't do that. So, stay with 1 John, and we've said before that you ought to be doing, looking in the dictionary for your words. Let me suggest a good concordance. It's a little expensive, but you really need it to do any kind of serious Greek study. And it's a Greek lexicon by Arndt and Gingrich. Arndt and Gingrich. This is a translation of Bauer lexicon by Arndt and Gingrich, and they've just come out. Don't get the old one, get the new one. And I think you'll find it very helpful. What you'll do is you'll look up a word and you begin to read all he says about that word. It takes a little more time that way. It's very interesting, and it will help you in your understanding of the word. So, continue there. Do with verses 9 and 10 for next time, and then we'll be on chapter 27.